Is that working now? Okay, I'm going to assume you can hear me. Cool. You can. That's good. Okay. I've just got a new microphone, so hopefully you can hear me better now. And I'm just working out how to use it. So yeah, welcome to this live stream. It's good to see you. See people there. Yeah, I've only just got everything set up because I've just had a power cut. So I think it's fixed now. So hopefully I'll be able to stay with you. But if I suddenly disappear, you'll know what it is. Right, so today I thought we'd do a bit of profiling on 10x. There's been a lot of talk about performance, and profiling is my favourite subject, profiling and optimising. So I haven't really got anything planned, but what I thought I'd do is I'll just take you through a profiling startup of 10x, loading a project. Now, I've already done this quite a lot, so there's probably not much to actually needs optimizing now, but I haven't looked at it for a while, so maybe there'll be something there which is worth doing. I'm probably not going to optimize anything here on the live stream because I'm not used to coding and talking at the same time, but we'll see how it goes. But anyway, hopefully it will show you a bit more detail on the 10x code base and how I do things and why it's fast. So let's get started. Right, I'm going to turn on FramePro, which is what I'm going to use at the moment. And it's literally just a fine I have to turn on, which is really nice because obviously recompile, which might take a little while. It's really nice that I can profile anything instantly. If I see something, I want to just turn the profile on, get a snapshot, see what it is, fix it, and then move on. So I can profile at any time with very little difficulty, and I think that's really important. If you've got to fire up a complex profiler and it takes ages to get a capture, and then you have to analyze it, and it's all unnecessarily complicated, and you tend not to do it. But if it's something you can just turn on in a minute or two, recompile and run and get the results, then you're more likely to do it. So I've just done debug, sorry. Let's do release. So the dump will be put in. See where I got it set up. I think yes. So the dump will be put into my temp folder, and it will just output a recording file. Let's wait for it to link. So let's see. Yeah, I've got it set to load the 10x workspace as it starts up. This is just my debug script, so I can easily make it start up anything I want, or run a test or anything like that. Linking does take a while on release. It's got all the optimizations turned on, LTCG and stuff. Right, there we go. So let's run it. So as you can see, it's loaded up, and that's all we actually need. So let's stop that. So let's put a folder in my temp folder, FramePro recording. So as the name suggests, in FramePro everything's a frame, so it's mainly designed for programming games, but we can also use it for the startup time. One big frame at the beginning here, about 3 seconds, so that's quite a long time. So the API initialize is just initializing D3D. If we jump to the source, it's annoying, it jumps to source in Visual Studio and not 10x. I need to change that. Make my FramePro software support my 10x software. Anyway, let's stay in Visual Studio for a minute. I'm actually using DX9, which, yeah, I just haven't updated my engine for that long. But it doesn't need anything special. All it's doing is throwing a few texture quads to the screen. DX9 will do. One day I'll update it, probably to 11 or something, but it's really not my highest priority at the moment. There's not much we can do about that. That's just a fixed cost, and it does vary. This is a long time, but it's usually much lower than that. And it's annoying, there's not much I can do about that, but yeah, maybe if I updated it to DX11, that would make that go away, so it might be worth doing. So let's ignore that for now and go to the initialize app, which is more interesting. Let's see. So opening the workspace is taking 500 milliseconds. That's obviously the main thing, which is as we'd expect. Let's just go through this initialized state. I can't actually remember what that is. So the state is just literally the file which stores the current state, like the window, etc., which is minimized, maximized, and various other things. So it's very strange it's taking that long. I wouldn't expect it to take 100 milliseconds to do that. So that might be worth investigating. Anyway, let's carry on and look at the rest of it. Before that we have font manager read cache, 40 milliseconds. I've already optimized that. That was loading the fonts, the TTF files, which didn't turn out to be pretty slow, a couple hundred milliseconds if I remember correctly. So I literally just cache it off now into a binary file and then read out that binary file instead. So that's pretty much as fast as it can be already. UI main read project. Let's just have a quick look at that. So that's interesting, because I don't think it should be doing that, because like I said, it's already loaded up the fonts from the font cache here. So that's kind of strange. Let's just stick a bit point and step through while I remind myself how all this works. Console TTF. Oh, this is the renderer loading it. Okay, yeah. So the renderer library doesn't use the UI at all. Obviously, the UI uses the renderer library to render stuff. So that will be loading up the actual TTF file, and that is just for the debug overlay that goes in the top corner of the screen to show frames per second and stuff, which I showed on that demo that I posted to Twitter. So it's not actually used, so I could get rid of that and save 24 milliseconds. You can't actually turn it on and release anyway at the moment, although I was thinking of enabling that. That's quite nice to see. So I'll see. I'll think about disabling that, and then maybe just load the fonts on demand if I add a setting so that you can turn on the, for instance, second display, then it can read the font in then. So that's a nice win. That's the easiest type of optimization. Just don't do it. And I like that kind of optimization. So done API initialize, which is everything pretty much. Done that. Color scheme manager, that's taking quite a long time, and that's a bit strange. 66 milliseconds, because literally all it's doing is it's loading in the font files, which sorry, not the font files, the color settings files. So there are 14 of them, and they're really not that complex. They're just literally text files. Not big text files. So again, I'd be thinking, does that need optimizing? Let's have a look at the source code. So that just creates a new color scheme, reads it in. I guess the read is what's taking the time. Let's stick a scope in there just to check, because it might not be, it might be something else. So let's just double check that. I mean, it might be just the read, it might be just the file system. Because 23 milliseconds to read in a text file is too long. There's something going on there. Actually, while we're at it, FramePro is showing here, it's not showing the context switches. So there might be other stuff going on in the course here that we can't actually see at the moment. So let's turn that on. We do that by, we have to run in administrator mode. So doesn't like that. Why doesn't it like that? Oh, expecting non-wide string. So let's start up in admin. now? Great, thank you, Daniel. Right, I'm not quite sure how long I was muted for there, but I'll just pick up where I left off. Sorry about that. I'm still working out how to use OBS and my new microphone, and even though it was switched to the microphone, for some reason it wasn't recording. Anyway, let's start again. So, I'm looking at the colour scheme manager and reading the colour scheme files, which seems to be taking a long time. I'm not sure how much you caught of what I was just saying, but it seems to be stalled for most of the time. It's not actually doing anything, and I'm guessing it's just stalling on the file system. So there's probably not much we can do about that. But I'm just finding it a bit strange that the directory get files is right in the middle of the colour scheme manager read colour scheme, and I'd expect it to be at the beginning. So I'm just investigating that. So I've stuck a breakpoint here and debug, and it's doing get files as you'd expect at the beginning. Let's see if it does that again as we step through. Let's come out of that. Come out of that. Again. Okay, so it's gone in there again. That's interesting. Oh, yes. Okay, yeah, that's what it is. So the first time it looks in the data file that's installed along with 10x to get the default colour scheme files, and then it looks in your app data folder to get the real ones and overrides any values or copies from there if they're not there. So that's why it's doing it twice. So the second time is actually, the first time it's just looking in the pack file. I'll show you how it works. You've probably seen when it installs. All of the data is stored in a .data file, 10x.data, and that's to speed everything up. Now this is not a compressed file. Usually if you're doing this in a game, you'd probably compress the file and then decompress it on the fly. But I didn't bother doing that because A, it's only 3 meg if we don't care, and B, it would just probably take a bit longer. You could probably decompress another thread and not have any overhead, but it would make all the code a lot more complex for no particularly good reason. So it's literally just a raw file with just all of the texture files and data files and color files and everything all stuffed into one file to make it fast to read. And I actually read, because it's only 3 meg, I just read the whole thing into memory, and then as I'm reading, it's literally just a mem copy, so it's not hitting the disk at all. But obviously these colour scheme files are in your app data folder, so I do need to hit the disk, and that's what we're saying here in FramePro. So it's just, you're just waiting on this. So there's probably not much we can do about that. 31 milliseconds is not terrible. You can probably live with that. Yeah, one thing I found out the other yesterday was actually you can override files if you want. You can create a UI folder, for example, a texture folder inside that, and then just put your own textures and override the textures in 10x, because it looks on disk first and then looks in the data file. It's kind of nice to be able to do that, because theoretically you could replace button icons and you could give it your own textures for your own extensions one day. But that does mean it's hitting the disk every time you want to open a file, and it doesn't actually need to do that because it's already got all of the data in memory from this data file. So that's another thing I could optimize and just not do that and just say you can't load up files off disk. Or I could scan the disk, scan the folder, the install folder on startup, get a list of all files that are there, and then never look at it again, and that would speed things up as well. So if we see that's a problem, that it's touching the disk every time it wants to open a file that's already in memory, then that's definitely something we can optimize. Anyway, let's move on. I don't want to spend too long on this because most of this is optimized already, as I was saying before. Let's just see if there's anything obvious that's taking too much time, more time than I would expect. UI main read projects. Now this is loading in the XML file where all of my UI is stored. So I might as well just show you that quickly. So at the moment, it's just literally one huge, Notepad++, that's fine. One huge XML file, which is created by my UI editor. So I'm not editing this by hand usually, although sometimes I do. It's kind of handy to have, and it's pretty big. So what I actually do is I convert this to binary. I've got one serialize function which is used to read in the XML and also to read and write the binary. So at build time, I just create the binary, copy it over, and then put that into the 10x data file and load that instead. So again, that's already optimized pretty much as it can be. I'll just show you that quickly in the UI object, which is the base object for all UI objects. And I've just basically got this serialize here. So like I said, this is used for the XML and the binary, and you just pass in a templated stream. Now, the reason I use a templated stream is because, I mean, a lot of people will create a virtual serialized base class and then have a XML serializer and binary serializer and inherit from that, and every call is a virtual function. That's a bad idea, because every single one of these serialized calls load in every single bit of data will be a virtual call. And yeah, I know in these days virtuals aren't that slow, but if you're doing it for every single bit of your data, it does add up. So I actually pass in a template to the serialize, and then the compiler can resolve it at compile time, and this is already quick. It's just copying bytes from memory, because remember the 10x data file is loaded into memory, so it's literally just copying bytes from one source to another, and it's very fast, and it's nice and easy to maintain. All of the classes have one of these serialized functions, and that's how it all works. So again, that's probably as optimized as it'll get for now. Loading of textures, that's not too bad. There really aren't many textures, as you can see in 10x. It's very, very simple. Not many textures, which is nice. Load plugins is spending a lot of time doing nothing. As you can see, these dark areas of the CPU idle. We've got some other processes here. Random things going on in Windows. There's so much going on. I don't know if you can see that. VC package server, actually, it's probably because I'm starting in debug. I'm guessing a lot of this stuff wouldn't happen if I was running it normally. It'd be nice to know what this section here was, because these are actually creating the plugins and doing something useful, like creating the parser database, which is fine, you'd expect that. But it could be nice to know. Let's come out of Zoom. Nice to know what that was doing. So let's go to load plugins. Create plugin. let's just chuck in some scopes. Check it's not this. I've compiled in debug. If I spelled it correctly. Compile in release. Another one. So this is the way I often do things. If I've got a Is it back now? It's back. Okay, I'm going to switch my other microphone because this one is really not working well. Sorry about this. 1 second. Yeah, it could be a hotkey, couldn't it? That's interesting. So I'm switching back to the microphone I usually use. Is that good? Can you hear me? Okay, so yeah, it's not going to be such good quality. That'll teach me to use a new microphone. It literally just turned up like half an hour before the session started, and then we had power cuts, and I couldn't test it out. So I literally just plugged it in 5 minutes before we started, which is asking for problems really anyway. So anyway, hopefully I'll get that sorted for the next one. And I'll try and work out why it keeps cutting out, but that is very odd. Maybe you're right, maybe I'm hitting a key that stops it. Okay, we'll carry on a little bit longer. I don't know how much of this you're getting or how useful it is, but we'll see. Where were we? So yeah, I'm just adding more scopes in the fast find initialize function to see where it actually is taking that time. Let's run it. Load up profile. Okay, what have we got? So fast find, here 1, here 2, here 3, it's all in here 4. So what was here 4? Create text finder. That's interesting. I'm guessing it's in there. What's it doing in there? Creating a new text finder, cache path. Okay, so that will be loading up the fast find cache. Workspace search cache, which is kind of understandable. It's going to take a little bit of time because it's not small. Let's find where it is. In the app data folder, cache, search cache, and ff cache file. Oh, not as big as I was expecting. 75 meg. Quite a few files. No. I mean, they're binary files, they're not XML or anything. But again, it's probably just waiting on the disk because most of it's idle time. So, the next part is loading the actual parser database, which is the main thing. It's going to take a long time because most of the memory, as you've probably seen, Telex does take a lot of memory at the moment. I will be optimizing that, and I think I can get rid of most of it. And all of that memory pretty much is the parser, because it's at the moment it's storing every single file in memory with all the tokens, the tags, the symbols for everything. It's all there in memory all the time. I don't actually need to do that. All I need to do is store the global sort of database of symbols. So hopefully I can just page that out and I won't have to load it in, because that's what's taking the time, is loading in that big database, which for the 10x project is 362 meg. So it's not huge for the 10x project. With things like Unreal project, it is very big. So anyway, we'll leave that for now, and then we've just got the renderer initialize, 21 milliseconds. That's not too bad. And then the NC activate, which is where, if I remember correctly, that Windows actually creates the main window, creates all the resources for it. So it's just idling, stalling for all that time. So that's Windows. That's not something I can do anything about. It's about as fast as it's going to get. And the def window proc as well. I've scoped all of my stuff in my win proc. So I've added scopes for like activate, and all of these, they're pretty much all scoped. So I can be pretty sure it's none of my functions that they're actually doing it. Yeah, Windows is not always fast at creating windows. You'd think, that would be fast, but it's not. So then we've just got the main render, process Windows messages. Let's just have a look at that. Present is just calling the first swap. So that's probably just waiting for the vsync actually. So we don't need to worry about that. And oh, sorry, that's the present there. So what's that? It's doing 2 presents before it gets to the next frame. That's weird. It's probably just it needs another FramePro start in there as well. So as you can see, most of it is out of my control in a way. If we look at the whole first frame, we got the D3D initialize. We've got all the stuff we just talked about, which is the 10x stuff, and then we've got all the Windows stuff here. So it's about a third 10x. One thing I was thinking of doing is it'd be nice if it loaded in the workspace in the next frame. Reason being, because then you would actually see, because you want this as early as possible, because that's the point where it actually shows the window, and it's nice to, when you open the window, for it to open instantly. So what I might actually do at some point, I'm not going to do it now, but at some point, is just move the place where it loads the workspace into the first frame, or the next frame, and then it'll just show the window like a little bit quicker, not a huge amount quicker, but it does notice like 80 milliseconds quicker. You'll notice that, and it'll just feel a bit more snappy. And then as you can see after that, the frames settle down a bit. Bit of stuff going on here. This is just where it's loading a database in, the parser database on other threads, obviously, and then it has to do some processing on the main thread just to set everything up once it's loaded in. So that's why you see these stalls here. And then after that, as you can see, the green frames are all within 14 milliseconds, and they're all just sleeping. So yeah, if it's got nothing to do, obviously it doesn't do any. It doesn't even present. It doesn't even call the swap. It just literally sits there doing a sleep for 10 milliseconds or whatever. And then if something in the UI changes, like even just the cursor blinking every second, Every second it will wake up and do something. Probably that's what it's done here, and it will render the UI in sort of 0.3 milliseconds there, and then call present, and then it'll call present for a while until it realizes the UI is not doing anything, and then it'll go back to sleeping again. So the test that I put on Twitter, rendering thousands of frames per second, I had to turn off the VSync for that and turn off this sleeping for it to get it to do that, because obviously you'd never want it to do that in reality. 60 milliseconds, or it'll update whatever your monitor is. So if you've got a 120 monitor, it'll update at that, because as you can see, normally it's doing almost nothing, which is how it should be. I mean, why would it be doing anything? Obviously, it could be parsing stuff in the background, but that won't affect the main thread ever. I always hit 60 FPS. So as you're typing or scrolling, everything always feels smooth. So I'm treating it like I would a game, even though it's an editor. So that's probably all I'll go into for now. I'm not actually going to do any optimizations now. I have to actually limit myself from optimizing. I spent so long optimizing 10x, it's ridiculous. It's kind of something I like to do. I allow myself to do every now and again when I'm bored of doing features. It's kind of, I find it relaxing to just profile and optimize. Just having a look through, you can always find something, it's really small. You can always look through and just say, that's taking longer than I'd expect. And then you put an optimization in, and it's all good. I like optimizing because it's just so satisfying to save a millisecond or whatever off a frame. It's kind of an objective measure. I know I've done something good and made the software or the game I'm working on better by that much, because so much of programming, especially in games, but also software as well, is kind of the subjective stuff where you think, well, I think I'm making it better, but I'm not quite sure. Whereas if you just make something fast, you know it's good. You know that at least that part of it is good. The rest of the game or software might be rubbish, but at least you've made a positive difference in what you're doing. So I like optimizing because it's simple and you know when you're winning. So yeah, that's the 10x startup, and hopefully it will stay fast. I always keep an eye on it. If it does start up slow, and I'll do exactly what I've just done in this stream, and just keep an eye on it. And that's the way to keep things fast, by keeping an eye on it. Most things get slow for stupid reasons, because people don't notice something, or you're using a bit of software in the wrong way or a different way, or someone else uses your code in a way it wasn't meant to be used. But because I'm working on my own, I know exactly what's happening, and I can really keep on top of it. Because I'm using 10x, I will notice when it's slow. But if you find something that's slow or something that stalls it for even half a second, if it's stalled, then do let me know, because it really shouldn't. And yeah, hopefully I can keep 10x fast as it goes on. I don't know how much of that stream you got with my dodgy audio. I keep cutting out, so sorry about that. But yeah, if you've got any questions, then please ask me. I'm just having a look through the chat now. Yeah, just people agreeing about optimization. It's kind of addictive once you get started. Okay. So I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I was going to say. I've had one or two crashes in the last few days with people, and they kindly sent me crash dumps, which is great. And I think it's to do with docking windows. So I've been trying all day to get it, and I just can't. But what seems to happen is somehow you get an empty tab. So it's got like a tab here, but there's nothing in it. And then if you close or restart or something, it'll probably crash because it's finding a null pointer somewhere. So even if I close all these windows here, you should still see a tab there. If I do close all, you should always see a tab. And sometimes it disappears and you've just got something empty and then it will crash. And I haven't been, it's quite rare, I haven't been able to reproduce it. So if any of you manage to get it, please let me know how you did it. Yeah. So crash dumps are useful because I can see how much is happening, but I actually need a repro for this one, and it's very annoying. I am going to be improving the docking because, as you probably realise, it's a bit temperamental, it's a bit weird. It kind of does work, but sometimes it docks where you don't want it to. I was trying to get away from the traditional, like in Visual Studio, the buttons where you could tell it where you want to dock it. Because I always find them a bit fiddly, and I thought if I could just do it so that you could just drag something somewhere and it will dock it, it'd be nice. And it's good if you're just doing that, but if you're doing more complex things, like for example docking the output window to the bottom, you have to kind of wait, because it was docking things when I didn't want, so I put in delays and tried to get it feeling good. Once you get used to it, it's kind of okay, but even I still find it annoying, so I'm imagining people who are new to it will find it very annoying. So I will be adding the four-way button thing, so you can just dock it exactly where you want and it won't dock by accident. So hopefully that'll improve things. But yeah, let me know if you find that crash. It'd be really nice to get that one. Apart from that, it's looking pretty stable at the moment. Right, so unless there's anything else, glad to see people focus on performance in the context of tools. Yeah. C# is limited at the moment. Yeah, I will be supporting C# at some point. Once I've got the C++ preprocessor finished off, I might start looking at the C# as well. So I think I can get some simple stuff in there pretty quickly to make it useful. But anyway, we'll see how that goes. Okay, so unless there's anything else, I'll have a look at this stream afterwards. If too much of it is cut out, then I'm the audio's not there, and I might just delete the stream. But we'll see. So yeah, unless there's anything else, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Okay, bye for now.